everyone. Welcome back to the 40% Better podcast. Amee is going to delight us today with stories of her career, all the adventures she's had, and of course, lessons learned. Thanks for joining us, Amee. I appreciate it.
Sorry, it's Ami. I just
Amee.
wanted.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Amee.
No, it's okay. No, a lot of people call me Amy just because that's what it looks like.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Yeah, yeah. Um, the reason for this, as on the other call I mentioned, I always kind of start off the podcast. This is just to get stories in the world about how leaders got to where they are. Because when I started leading teams, I couldn't find those stories, and I still can't find those stories. And I decided to just scratch my own itch and make it happen. So thank you for being a contributor. I really appreciate it. The one scripted question that I ask everyone is, how did you get started on leadership? Was it like, were you the kid that organized the soccer teams? Or did, like one day you're an individual contributor who gets drafted and all of a sudden you're a lead? Or like, how did it happen?
Yeah, I think my first leadership position, I would say it's not baked in my personality. Like I wasn't just like a born leader like you see some people. I was definitely I'm like a type B personality. And I had a role where I was kind of like a mentor to one of our engineering drafters at one of my jobs. That was like my first leadership experience. And then I moved on to another company after that. I did that job for about 5 years. And that company was acquired by the company that I work for right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was tech support manager at the other company. And then in the acquisition, there was already a tech support manager. So they said, hey, we've already got a tech support manager. You'll be an applications engineer. Is this a role you're interested in? And so, like, I'm really summarizing that
Yeah,
story,
yeah, yeah,
really.
yeah, yeah.
But I did that role, kind of like working at the front lines with our customers. I really enjoyed that. And then my boss at the time went on to take another role within the company. But kind of it was a new role that they had carved for him. And I was the next eligible successor, you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And so they said, "Hey, this is what we're thinking about for you." And I was really excited to take on that role. It was kind of similar to what I was doing before the acquisition, but a different capacity.
Nice. Very cool. I'm always curious, like, because I hear all these different answers, in when I ask, and so I'm always like, how did you? What's it look right? Are there
We
any? Oh, go.
Oh, I was just gonna say one of the things that we preach in our organization is like, hey, every single day that you're working here, it's an interview. You are interviewing every single day that you're on the job for your next role.
Nice.
And it's not like in the sense of you're under scrutiny. It's just that, hey, like we're always looking out for the next eligible candidate for whether it's a new role or a backfill. And I think that's a really powerful approach because, you want it to be positive. You want people to know there is opportunity, but also you're in control of that.
I like that. That's a really smart philosophical perspective. Yeah, yeah. Um, how much, like, how much have you seen people move around and taking advantage of that?
Yeah, we almost exclusively promote from within. Um, and uh, one of the reasons is, okay, you've already got someone who knows the business.
Mm-hmm.
But also we are just a team that is constantly championing our peers, whether you're in the department or not. Like we have another thing that we say, hey, make others look good. This is a quote by the late Mark Eaton. And one of his, I think it's like 4 commitments of a team It's make others look good. So don't do things for yourself. What are you doing to make the organization look good? What are you doing to make your boss look good? What are you making? What are you doing as a leader to make your team look good? So it's a radial effort, right? Like it goes in all directions, up, down, peer level. But when you foster that positivity, you see that like the best candidates are right under your roof.
Yeah, yeah. I really like that. There's multiple things you're saying there that I really like. The internal promotion I think is genius because people know that the company cares about them when they see that happen. Like that's a really big trust building practice to have, which trust is a large part of the game in my mind. Um, and and when you see that happen, you're like, oh, Ami got promoted internally, and cool. I could be the next person to get something like that, right? So that's genius. And I like that enlightened self interest of helping others, because that's the internal metric. It gets people thinking very differently, and to have that be a deliberate part of the conversation, because people normally that's not something they say out loud, right? So
Right.
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of become part of our fiber. We just don't even think about it. Like we don't even like vocalize it sometimes because it's just part of our fabric now.
Yeah. Yeah. And doing the behaviors, it it's an automatic replication, for other people. Yeah. Um, when you guys do onboarding of new hires, like what's the conversation like for like here's how we play the game of working at this company. Do you guys have
Um,
a structure around that? You've been there a while. I don't know if you remember this
Yes.
or not.
So when I started, we were an organization of like 180 employees. So when I was part of the company that got acquired, so when I was brought in, it was like 180 employees. And onboarding was like sink or swim, just
Right. Okay. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
do
Been
this
there.
thing. Let me show you this thing. Like, let me take you to this training class. I'll, open up this book and teach this lesson. So it's just like really shoot from the hip. There's no
Hmm.
structure. Um, and we really benefited from that actually because it really showed you kind of who the self starters were. Who were the ones that didn't need a lot of um, hand holding, which is not bad necessarily, but when you're a small organization and you're trying to grow, you need a lot of self starters. You need people that can like just take ownership.
Yep.
It's like, hey, your job is to make this product successful. Go, and there's like very little boundaries, and you're like, and then it's just, you know, yeah, what is it like? I forgot the phrase, but you like do something and then ask for permission later. I forgot what
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
phrase
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Ask for forgiveness, not for permission.
yes, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so there was a lot of that, and rarely like would there be like a big mistake where you'd have to like talk about it. It's definitely a risk worth taking. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go give you this thing, go work on it, and then let's talk about it. And failure is not, it's not, it doesn't look that bad if you do fail in those
Hmm.
areas. Like
Hmm.
normally you're still fine. It's like, okay, you did great here. This part didn't go so well. Let's talk about that. And there's a lot of
Right.
development that happens there. But now we're an organization of 800 plus employees, and we've done probably 5 to 7 acquisitions since then. And
Wow.
yeah. So we're just at a scale now where we can have like formal onboarding. We have a new hire training. Now, a lot of that is also driven by feedback we've gotten from employees over time. Like we always do exit interviews, and I remember some common feedback from the early days was, "Hey, the onboarding wasn't great here." And that's what I love about exit interviews because it's like, yeah, like tell it. Like there's so much to be learned there.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
there's some parts where we were like, no, but we still believe in this to some extent because we need self starters. But you can have and kind of breed self-starters, but also do onboarding. So
Right.
we have an awesome guy that does our new hire training. We had kind of like this interim program even before that for onboarding. So it's always gotten better, and we always want to work to be better. And
Hmm.
ultimately, we want to serve our team so that they can serve our customers, and like it just kind of has that waterfall effect outward.
Nice. Yeah, I like that when upper level management talks about doing things to help the teams to help the customers, that's a really good signal because they appreciate that the people that are talking to the customers are usually individual contributors. And
Right.
and they really need to help make that an easy conversation, and not a high friction conversation. It's like, how do we have this work better? Because the execs don't spend a lot of time with customers as a general rule of thumb.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the bigger the org, the smaller and smaller those numbers get, where you have executive and client conversation. So no,
Right.
that's
There's
I think
more of a separation, right?
yeah, yeah, and you should just expect that it's going to be individual contributors all the time, and because 99% of the time that's what's going to be happening. Yeah. So I think that's an awesome philosophy. That's great. How did you guys develop that?
The which part?
This idea of this, top down, support the team, help the individual contributors. Was that homegrown? Did somebody like one day, company founder kind of like, this is how we think, or like where'd that come from? Because it is not 100% normal across industries.
Yeah, our founder always believed in kind of this entrepreneurial spirit of, enabling your team to make decisions. Decisions are not necessarily the best coming from the top down. Like the experts are at the front lines. They're the ones with the experience. So there's a lot of enablement and trust all through the team. And because of that, there's a lot of this mutual like respect of like, hey, you're talking to the customers, you're doing all this hard work, and there's this great feedback loop throughout all of that. So we definitely prioritize enablement, decision making. And then, like I said, we allow mistakes, we allow failures, and we talk about it. And we don't want anyone to feel like they're in trouble for trying something new. There's much more to be gained by trying something new and making a mistake than not trying something at all.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great philosophy. I think that's genius because I I had a guest a couple episodes that was talking about how when people come into a company, they're so afraid. They've been conditioned to be afraid of looking dumb, and they're so worried about that his perspective is you have to really peel away that programming that they've got and like give them a new thing where it's like, yeah, you're never dumb. Everyone makes mistakes. Here's three that I've made, in the last 2 months or whatever, or yesterday. And
Exactly.
yeah, and really like, okay, it's human. It's the scientific method. We have a hypothesis. We do an experiment. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And what do we learn from it? And how do we keep moving forward and learn from whatever didn't go the way we thought that it would.
Yeah, so I lead the technical team at Go Engineer, and we have this just culture of just being vulnerable to each other. We own our mistakes, and we just want to foster that. And if through acquisitions, we've learned that not all organizations have that. So it's quite, you can feel that tension
Right.
of that lack of trust, or oh no, I can't show this failure point, or I can't show this weakness. And so you have to be willing almost to doubly share to kind of keep that momentum going. Like when you're acquiring a company from a different culture, it's like, no, it's okay here. Like, that's okay. Let's talk about this. You had this hard time with an employee on your team. Let's uncover that. And it's like, oh, but I tried really hard. It's like, no, like that's not what this is about. Let's see what all of us can learn from this.
Yeah, yeah. That is an awesome philosophical perspective. I really, yeah, like that's, wow.
Well, it's not mine.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about leadership is you don't have to have the whole recipe by yourself. You know what I'm saying is, I used to say this cocktail of awesomeness, it comes from all the people you've interacted, and you get to pick all the things you want to keep and all the things you want to let go of. So that can be not just from your current company, but from any other experience. You mentioned like coaching a team. Like you can pick apart all these experiences from your life and say, like, these are the qualities of a leader that I'd like to emulate. And you can make yourself into that cocktail. That's what's so awesome about it.
Okay, so this is awesome. I love the way you're talking about like basically reinvention. It's like you learn this thing and then you're modifying yourself. You're modifying your own programming and you're doing your own self-guided evolution, which is
it's none of this is like organic Amee Meghani, like this is just taking pieces from others, in my career path. And I'm like, okay, this is kind of like the formula I want to lead this team with because this is what this team needs right now. But
right.
Eventually that recipe may expire and I need to reformulate, or, I may not be the best person for that role anymore. So we have to be really in tune to what will lead us to growth. And that's what's exciting.
I like that. Did you always have that self-awareness?
No.
How did you start to develop it?
I think when you have a little room, I don't know. I don't know if I have a good answer for that. I think you develop it over time. Like I can't say early in my career. Like early in your career, you're focused on. Someone once told me, "Hey, early in your career, it's about what you can do." Like with your hands. Like that's metaphorical, but it's like, hey, what can you do? You can design, or you can, edit, or whatever it is. And then over time, it's about like how you communicate and how you think. And that's kind of like the evolution. It doesn't mean the other stuff goes away, but like when you have a little more space to think and communicate and kind of reflect, you can actually like reflect on yourself and understand like, okay, this is working, this is not. But at the same time, you also have to be willing to accept feedback. And that's something big in our organization is I have one of my directors on the team. He says it best. He goes, okay, are you in a place where you can accept feedback? And he says that to his team and he says that to me. And I love that because it is so positioning for, hey, what I might say, what I'm about to say may not be beautiful. And I love that. That is like a great way. But, if we're not at a place where we can accept feedback, and if you have kind of like this body language or just this aura about you where it's like, I don't think I can ever say anything to you, then you're just kind of, like you're selling yourself short by that.
Yeah. And it would feel really disempowering for me if and I've had this happen at companies where there's people that they didn't want feedback. Like their ego, whatever, like they were right no matter what was kind of their egoic perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, ego is something that not intentionally, but it's something we just, we stay away from. Like, it's just, we try to like extract that out of, meetings. And this is kind of back to like recognizing your team members. Hey, this is not about me. This is about my team members. This is not about me. This is about my peers. Um, you know, I think it's a much more positive place to work.
Yeah,
And have
yeah, yeah, yeah. Everything that you're saying really, I'm hearing this philosophical perspective about the embodiment of servant leadership. Yeah,
Yes, that's absolutely the
yeah,
phrase that we go around saying, servant
yeah,
leadership.
yeah.
In fact, if you look on our glass door, there's probably someone complaining, like, oh, I'm so tired of hearing about servant leadership.
Okay, super high class problem to have. Really, like really, that's amazing. That's
It's like a nice way to say, hey, it's kind of annoying now. But it absolutely works for us at least.
yeah, yeah.
And
That,
yeah.
that that's kind of like people complaining that they're getting paid so much that now they're in a bigger tax bracket. You know, like, okay, sorry. You know,
Woohoo. Yeah.
yeah. Um, would you like a demotion? Um, that's yeah. I really I'm super impressed at how you guys are doing all this stuff. This is awesome. It's really good. Um,
We have this is our founder who has always our founder, Ken Coburn is his name, and he has been like this from the beginning before I got there, and
awesome.
it's just like, and I mean, this goes outside of our organization. He doesn't gatekeep any organizational secrets. Like if our competitors are asking him questions, he's like, "Here you go." Like he wears his heart on his sleeve in that way, and he's never been worried about our competitors emulating us because it's really like the genius of the team and the culture, and that you have to like build this environment of optimism, entrepreneurship. We have some new core values we've put together. We have a core value called "We Before Me,"
Mm,
which means you put everyone else in front of yourself. So
right.
it doesn't mean like, oh, don't go hit your sales goals necessarily, but it's like, hey, like organization first. How does this impact the people you're working with? How does this impact the organization, your team, your peers? Then you can think about you.
Right. Right. No, I just yeah that whole perspective is so well just from the bottom line perspective. It's good for the business, right?
Yeah.
That and it's good for people's mental health because they understand and they see that on a daily basis where people are being taken care of inside the organization, and it sounds like um, the company has an ingrained belief that there is enough business in the world for you that telling your secrets to your competition is not going to put you out of business, right? And that's such a refreshing move away from most people have a serious scarcity mindset. They're like, oh my God, if I don't get this next deal, we're sunk. Which, okay, granted, when you're starting a company, you're brand new, that may be it. That may be true, but after you get to a certain point, you get a certain velocity. The, there's lots of customers out there. We have a
Right.
global possibility today. It's not that you live in a village of 150 people and you know that's your whole market, right?
Yes. Right.
Right. There's probably more than 150 people within easily within a quarter mile of me. There's probably 1,000 people within a quarter mile of me. There's an office building down the street that's probably got 300 people in it. So it's just, I think that's it's a really self-confident perspective to have, and it takes, when you have that, it goes, the ego becomes, the fear side of the ego kind of just doesn't have traction. you
Right.
know
Yeah.
yeah.
We one of our core values is also lead with initiative. And that means, like if you see something that needs to be done, or you see like a vacuum, like go fill it, go solve this problem. Don't wait for it to appear on your job description.
Hmm.
I remember when we got to a size and people were asking about a job description, I'm like, oh, we don't do that, but we should. It was just like, people just do what needs to be done around here, and that's not scalable. But if you're a smaller organization, you can get by with that. It's not scalable just because people want to know, hey, like I need some framework for
Right.
what I'm responsible for, but it doesn't mean you can't color outside the lines. And so we say lead with initiative. The other piece of that is also, you don't need to have a title like lead or manager or VP to go do something. Like you can be an influential leader wherever you go in the organization. And that is, I think, so powerful.
That is an awesome mental model to have, and it's also it's a it's a change in how most people see power dynamics, right? They're like, oh, that's above my pay grade. I'm an individual contributor. I can't do that because that's the director's or the VP's job, right?
Yeah.
And when you can explicitly say, oh no, like we don't play that game, right? If you see a problem, you can go solve the problem, irrespective of your level in the org. That's super valuable because so many times I've been frustrated at companies when I'm, like there's a problem and I'm like, how come nobody's doing it? And people will literally say to me, oh, it's above my pay grade. And I'm like, no, it's not. You know, if you can see a way to solve the problem, like raise your hand and like, you know, and it's,
I think that's also from an organization where permission is required, or that's culturally the norm. It's like,
yeah,
okay, I am not to do anything unless I'm explicitly told to do this, because there is that kind of leadership where it's like, no, I will let you know when it involves you. There's that
right.
kind of leadership, and that's also a very common leadership style. This has never worked for us. One of the things our founder Ken has always said, which I love, it is, a leader is someone who others are willing to follow.
Hmm.
I'll say it again. A leader is someone that others are willing to follow. And what he means by that is, who are the natural influencers in the organization? They may have no leadership title at all, but they are having such a huge impact on the organization and the people around them. And some of those people don't even want a leadership title. They're like, no, I do not want these HR responsibilities. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. But these folks are so influential in an organization, and those are the ones that we have our eye on. It's not who knows the most about something.
Right. Yeah, I really like that. It's such a letting people know that that's possible. That they've got that freedom is such a huge. It's a huge advantage, and everything you're saying sounds. I'm like, oh, that. How many people do you have in the company now?
We
Ballpark.
have 800. 800.
800. Yeah. So but what's interesting is I'm hearing it and I'm like, yeah, 10-person startup. That's how it operates. Only you're like way beyond a 10-person startup, right? And and I'm impressed that you've been able to keep that kind of mindset because normally, well, at least the companies that I've been at, when they 150 people, Dunbar's number ish, people start getting a lot more. What's the word that I want? They're starting to get way more regimented and stuck, and there's not this ongoing conversation of, hey, you can do whatever you want to, like you've got a ton of flexibility. It's like that has to be a very deliberate part of the conversation to say you're a software engineer, but if you can make a sale, go for it.
Yeah, it's really hard. I will say it's hard to do that as we scale, because you've got a lot more people. So when you're 180 employees, it's like, okay, everyone wears 5 hats. And when you're 800, it's like everyone wears one giant hat.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you're that person, you know?
Yeah.
And so it is hard to do it. But like one of our most recent um, wins was someone who did work completely outside of their department. And we
Hmm.
won the deal because of that. But it's only because you allow that flexibility.
Right.
And
Right.
no one came to me and said, "Can we have permission to do this?" I'm like, "No, don't even be asking me permission. You guys know the right thing to do."
Yeah.
And like customer service is the North Star.
Hmm.
And if something goes wrong, we'll talk about it later, but you know what to do. You know how to give the customer a great experience. And then if you want to tell me later, like, oh, this person had to get out of their department to do this, we'll make it right later from behind the curtain.
Right.
Like that stuff we can figure out, you know?
Yeah. I really like that, and I hope you continue to hire for that. Like the thing that have you ever read Innovator's Dilemma by Clay Christensen?
No.
It's a few years old, but it's still totally valid. It's about he's a or was a he was a business prophet. I can't remember one of the bigger schools, but he wrote a few books about business. And the Innovator's Dilemma was this pattern he saw where a small company would come up with something innovative. They would get into the marketplace. They would disrupt everybody big. They would become the giant, and then all of a sudden they've slowed down their innovation, and another small company comes along, has something, the giant dies, right? And very few companies escape that, right? And the thing that he mentioned in the book that I've seen is that at a certain size, companies start hiring people that are more focused on safety than and staying within the lines than they
Yes.
are kind of this more broad thinking, success driven mindset. And the few times that I've been at much bigger companies, I've been confronted with that, and it's been a real internal friction for getting things done. It's like it's not the outside world that's causing the problem. It's people inside. They're like, oh no, we can't do that because
Yeah.
I believe this, and I'm like, you're going to kill the business, like, and
Yeah.
and
When
yeah,
we take the ego out of our organization, paired with the entrepreneurial spirit, there's not a territory war of responsibilities, you know? It's like, yeah, come on over. Let's work on this
right,
together, right?
right,
Um, so it's not competitive like that. We have healthy competition, but it's not that unhealthy competition like, oh, I'm gonna lose my job if you come over here.
right,
Um,
right.
it's more like, no, the more the merrier. So it is kind of like this perfect combo that
Hmm.
works.
Hmm.
But yeah, when it can be driven culturally, but it can also be driven by the processes and the boundaries that we scribe in as an organization grows. That's
Nice.
something that we are working on right now. It's like, where do we have like unnecessary bureaucracy? And
Mm,
it's you probably like we should be doing that, like revisiting that regularly of like, when is this like too much where we're eliminating just common sense, the human element? Like there's parts where, okay, this needs to be automated, fine, but we don't want to automate the things that are human. And so I give a lot of credit to our technical directors for always keeping that at the forefront. Let's like not automate everything. Let's keep like the human element where it makes sense to. And then like, why should this take 15 steps, right? We need to like keep revisiting processes and make sure, does this make sense? does it work without these 14 steps like 95% of the time? Like, then let's not add 14 steps.
I like that. Yeah. The reduction of bureaucracy is awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Because I think that's such a, I use the word friction all the time, but I think of that as a friction in the process. And yeah, if you've got if it takes 15 steps and you can bring it down to one, yes, let's do that. Especially if it gets past the 80-20 point,
Yeah.
like, yeah, well, most people's lives will be better. And the ones that aren't, we can go do it by hand,
I know.
like,
And
yeah,
it's so easy for me to say from where I'm standing, but like that's 800. Like once you get into the thousands, I don't know what that would look like. My very first job was in a giant organization. It was tons of bureaucracy and paperwork and process. So I don't know like how long and how far that lasts and how long you can resist or keep that from
right.
happening. But you definitely still at least have to keep an eye on it and make sure the whole team's keeping an eye on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think there's like, I look at Patagonia, the outdoor clothing company, right? Um, they have, they're pretty big, you know, they're over $1 billion now.
Right.
And they're private. They've never gone public because the Yves Chenard, the founder of the company, said, if we go public, we can't run this company the way we want to, because now we're beholden to the marketplace and to shareholders, and we don't need their money. Like, we're building a business, we're going to make a ton of money, we're going to treat our employees how we want to, and so they've done a bunch of stuff over the years to treat their people really well, to take care of their employees. They talk about their ecological stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And it's stuff that if they were public, they couldn't do.
Right.
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 And so they're like, and they've turned down all over the years multiple times these different things about, oh, you could, Eve could make more money, right? Or that, and he's like, I've got enough. Like
Yeah.
that's, and if you ever get a chance, he has a book called "Let My People Go Surfing."
I've seen it. I
Yeah,
haven't read it. I've seen.
it is really good. From and it was written probably 20 years ago, so the technology side of it is horribly out of date, But the philosophical perspectives I love, and they're timeless, and like it's what you guys are doing. I love that, and it's such a breath of fresh air. And to me, it's kind of a proof point. You can be at those multiple thousand employee points and still take care of your people really well, and
Yeah.
have that innovation level and that personal responsibility, enlightened self-interest to take care of the team kind of mindset, and have it be scalable. And maybe Patagonia is not the right company for everybody, but no company is, right?
Right.
That's the kind of the beauty of business, is that we get to figure that out along the way, right? It's like, oh, I love working at this company because they let me blossom, or I love working at this company because I know exactly my guardrails, and I know
Yeah.
I've got to stay in here. And like for some people, that's what they need.
So much of it is just making your organization a wonderful place to work.
Right.
And like we just want our team to be happy. It's not just about like how do I get here or there. It's like I want my team to be happy like on a day-to-day basis. I want them to feel like wow, like our customers are doing really cool things and I'm a part of that. Or, there's so many like pieces of what we do as an organization that brings us, personal satisfaction, but just also like the work-life balance and that's what we want to maintain. We're really proud of that.
Yeah. How is you're saying that? How many people are in your org? Ballpark?
In the entire organization?
Oh,
800?
just for
Oh,
you.
just mine. I would say the technical team's about, we're kind of transitioning right now, but I would just say ballpark 250.
Do you have how do you, at your level, get feedback from the individual contributors to know
Yeah.
like what they're thinking?
Yeah, so that's something that we're trying to fine tune a little bit better. So um, we we have like we've actually started prioritizing one-on-ones. We used to not do that as like a ritual. We're like one-on-ones, just talk to me when you need me, that kind of thing. But now we've made it a point like, oh, these are actually like so many things come out of this. Like, how long have you been keeping this inside? Um,
Yes.
so there's that, and then that comes up, but we understand like like let's say a manager is having a one-on-one that's like an hour long, then what trickles up may be like some of it is resolved right there. And then maybe there's something that bubbles up and that's like 5 minutes, right? So you get a very distilled version of what the feelings are at the front line. So we're aware that I think that's just the nature of any organization. We do annual surveys, and there's a big comment section. We get like 800 comments.
Nice.
It's a lot to read. But there's a lot of emotion in that. Like there's a lot
Right.
of like, this just isn't working. This is horrible. And then this is like, this is the best place to work. Please don't change it. So you get like like all the colors of the rainbow in that feedback. But ultimately, like we have to dig into that and say, okay, like how much of this is an issue? And you start digging into some of the details like, oh, this is not right, like we need to like fix this. Now you can't fix all 800 things that are stated, like you have to kind of pick and choose, but like no stone goes unturned.
Right. Right.
We still have, what's important at that scale is like, okay, it's a comment from one person, but like are there others that are just not commenting on it and it's still a problem? Then you get feedback that is blatantly, okay, 20 people are saying this, we need to like look in that. Those are more obvious. And then the other thing we're trying to implement in the upcoming year is trying to connect not just with your downline, but your downline's downline, so your second line
Right.
manager.
Right.
And I think in a scaling organization, you're not used to doing that, but we are going to try to do that because we just want to give more space for that. And then our human resources team, we call it people success. Our people success team has implemented a coffee. So it's a virtual engagement with a handful of employees, like 12 employees with a couple of members from the executive team. It's very casual. It's like, how are you, that kind of thing. But also there's some Q&A in there, and like we can get real in a more intimate setting because people aren't going to just share that in a giant setting. Like a more intimate setting, people are more comfortable talking, and that goes for any group. Like you're not going to have a lot of people talking when you get to a virtual space that's 20 or more. People
Right.
stop talking.
Yeah. Yeah. Except for the real extroverts.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And they'll always raise their hand. And yeah. Yeah. You know that. Yeah.
Which is always welcome because you want to know, like, but
Right.
people
Right.
are like, oh, I don't want to put them on the spot, I'm gonna do this side chat on Teams or something, and you're like, no, you can share it, just share it
Yeah.
here, we're
Yeah.
all
Yeah. Now it's the reason I ask is because one of the things that I've noticed is this. I'm trying to be diplomatic when I say this. I don't really know how to do this diplomatically. Apologies to anybody who's offended by this, including you. But I've noticed that executives have blind spots,
for sure.
right? Like, I mean, all humans have blind spots, but I've noticed that in companies where when you're talking 100+ people in an org, the people at the top of the org, it's challenging to get all the data in, and the frustrations of the people that are the individual contributors. Like, to me, that's always the thing that I look at exactly what you've been saying about getting the friction out so the individual contributors have the opportunity to do their jobs the best, right? and I'm always curious about, because I've seen those blind spots cause non-trivial problems in productivity,
Yes.
um, and it's not a deliberate thing, right? It's just it's a blind spot, and so it's a blind spot. You can't do anything about it, because since what I've found is every time the executive finds out, they're horrified. They're like,
That's so
"This
true.
is, oh my God! Like, how come nobody told me this a year ago?" And and
Yeah.
and
There's
it's super frustrating for everyone, right? So getting that communication to be as as fluid as possible
yeah.
is, I look at that all the time. Like, okay, how do we get this? How do we get the attention from the individual contributor up to whoever can write the check to solve the problem?
Right. Yeah.
And because if it's like, if it's simple stuff, then their manager can handle it. But sooner or
Right.
later, it's going to get up to, it's a dollar amount that somebody up the org chart needs to go, yeah, this totally makes sense. It's a good ROI. Let's do it. But I think
Yeah.
that's one of those, and maybe it's because I've had so many experiences of my team complains about something. I get multiple people complaining about the same thing. In my head, I'm like, wait, this is really expensive, right? In terms of productivity and person hours, and then I bring that to the execs, and they're like, how long has this been going on?
Right.
And I'm like,
Right.
I don't know, it's at least 2 years now. These guys have told me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and they're like, well, yeah, fix it tomorrow, you know?
Yeah. I think one thing you said is like, there's a lot more space between the executive team and those who are at the front lines, and it's uncomfortable for the executives too. Like we're
Right,
also
right.
not we don't enjoy that we're so distant from that. So
Yep.
we do want that feedback. The other thing is you may communicate something to a manager. We try to foster an environment where, like, yes, definitely talk to your manager, but on occasion, sometimes you can go to your manager's manager. Like, it's okay. Like,
Yep. Yep.
I want to communicate to our managers and to our team that you're not going around your manager. You're just trying to find another set of ears, another perspective. Now, it may eventually come back to your manager, and that should be okay. You might say, okay, hey, I'm gonna go to so and so. I just want to make sure you're okay with that. And they should be. If they're not, that's also a red flag.
Right.
To me, that's a red flag. Like, I want the team comfortable going to anyone. Now, we should be aware that, like, leadership in general, they only have so much time available. We don't enjoy that we don't have as much time available. But for sure, it's like, hey, I have this idea I want you to hear about, or I have this challenge and I've mentioned it a few times to so and so, but I just want another perspective. Like, what's your advice here? Like, you should for sure just find someone who's willing to listen. It doesn't even have to be in your department, and that should be like welcome. And if it's not, that
Yeah.
needs to be fixed. Um, and then, something that we used to do, which we're trying to figure out how to do it again. But
Hmm.
when we were a smaller group, we would go to our various offices. So we're an organization, we're not in one place. We have like 50 offices across the US with just a few employees, and we're a very remote slash virtual company.
Sure.
And before when we had just like, let's say, 15 offices, we would do these sessions where it's like one person from each department, and it'd be like a pod of folks, and our CEO would kind of arrange this meeting, getting input from various departments, and it's like, hey, what would you like to see fixed? And you'd have like this department from our hardware side say something, and then someone from the software side, or order management or accounting. And so you had all these groups represented in a room, and they weren't leaders necessarily. It was anyone could participate. So you would be called on to participate in this quarterly, we called it a QOP, quarterly operational planning. And yeah, you'd get an invite like once a year to sit in on one of these. And you had no idea who the others were, but it was just this cross section of your organization just to talk about the big problems. And it's hugely effective. Like, one, people feel like they have a voice. Two, you're trying to solve it right there in that room. And then you walk away with some initiatives, and it's been successful for us. We just haven't scaled it just like that for the size we are now. We have different methods that we're trying out, but nothing I can report to you and say like.
Yeah, it's the thing that I found was, and I've been at companies that are all, like when I was at Google, we're like everywhere, right? Like I never knew where anybody was when I looked them up in the directory, and especially because people travel a lot.
Right.
Like it could be somebody who's based in Greece, but they're actually in Mountain View at the next building over from me. It was kind of the world that I lived in. But I did, and I'm a huge fan of doing all the back channel kind of talk to people in other groups all the time thing, because I learned so much that helped me understand the business better at a more abstract level. But also it gave me insights that I could bring back to the team to help them understand our mission. And because I would learn something, I'd be like, oh, like I just learned this from one of the salespeople about, blah, 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 blah. Like, did you guys know this? And they, like usually the answer was no. And so, it'd be like, oh, this is really interesting. Now we understand better why we're doing whatever it is we're doing. Or, customer support, like they keep having a problem with something. Can our engineering team do something to reduce them getting this same kind of complaint, question, whatever it is? Can we add something into our backlog and solve that problem? And and then also, by the way, before we just randomly go do this, let everybody else know what the heck we're doing and why we're doing it.
Yes, that's always the wrinkle.
Yeah. Like we're gonna let everybody else know. Oh, we got this feedback, because the reason I started doing this was because I was at a very small startup, and the founder said, you need to talk to everybody in the company forever. And I was like, really? And he's like, yeah, because I can't tell you what they say, and I don't want to be the
you don't want it to be
the knowledge bottleneck, right? And he's like, you need to make your team happy, and you need to go spy and talk to everybody. And I was like, oh, okay, done, and I think
that's an example of the empowerment and
oh yeah,
hey, like I'm gonna get you connected directly. I don't need to be the guy or the
right.
person to be the pass through. Things get translated incorrectly, and I don't have the answers. So why do that?
Right. And he was really quick to point out that he didn't understand to the technical end of what could be done. He's like, people could say stuff that is a technical problem that you know how to solve, and I would hear it and not even realize it. And so I would never bring it to you. And I was like, oh, that totally makes sense. So I'm just going to, he was a really, really good founder to work for. Still, to this day, I think he's top 2. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, it was just that, and that was a really good environment but yeah, okay. Well, I guess, when I was at Google, I was weird because I talked to everybody, because I was trying to solve problems,
but then you're the guy that everybody's going to go to because you're willing to
right,
talk to
right,
everybody,
right.
oh,
Yeah.
Bill knows this person. Bill's gonna know the guy.
Yeah. Yeah. But and that was the thing that frustrated me was that other people didn't do that. You know,
Yeah.
because people would say, "Oh, we have this." Like I would hear people tell me, "Oh, we have this problem," but they weren't willing to do the outreach to talk to people to figure out how to solve the problem. And sooner or later, you know, this going back to Clay Christensen's whole thing with the innovator's dilemma, sooner or later that those things add up, and then the company just stalls. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I think that's a personality difference in a sense. It's like someone like you do it so naturally, you know? And so it,
now
yeah,
because I used to have horrible social anxiety,
yeah,
and,
it's
and
learned
and
behavior.
yeah, when I started off, it was super challenging, and I had to work through my social anxiety to get it to be easy. Yeah, yeah. So it just a, you know it was a learning experience.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that's what we're all a product of that, right? Like we all have our unique leadership thumbprint, and it's from just all those experiences.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And the inputs. You know, for me, it's like what are the commonalities? Like clearly, in your environment and your experience, there's a bunch of mental models or belief structures that you have that are the same ones that I have. So, despite the fact that you know no commonality in our work experience, somehow the inputs that we've gotten over the years have been the same. You know, which to me means there is a system available for doing this effectively. And I'm full disclosure, everything I think of is systems. Like I'm very much a systems thinker, and and because it means it's transferable. So if I
Yeah.
can learn a system, I can teach my team, I can teach my kids, you know, I can teach my friends, whatever it is, right? And so the stuff that you're saying matches the system that's in the back of my head. So
Yeah.
if nothing else, it's corroboration that, oh, someone else has got this same system running, even if it came up organically.
Yeah. The
And
things that work stick, right?
yeah, and
So
you know, it's working there really, really well, obviously. Yeah, so I like that. That's very cool. Yeah,
yeah, our organization, we just passed, I think, 40 years. It was before my time. But yeah, Ken founded this about 40 years ago, and this is the philosophy since. But on top of that, through acquisitions and brilliant personalities that we've been blessed to know, um, who we are today is just a culmination of all the genius that was and is in our organization, and the paths we've crossed with certain folks that may not be in our organization anymore. Like we are just we're so blessed for the people that we've had in our organization.
I love that.
Still
Please
do.
don't change that. That's awesome. Um, I'm looking at the clock. I'm realizing that your time is important. And this has been awesome. I mean, this has been a really great conversation. I really appreciate having these kinds of stories available for people to come and listen to and go, oh, wait a minute, like, oh, they've got 800 people. If they can pull it off, so can we. Because there's a lot of companies that are less than 800 people. And there's a lot of people that have less than 200 employees in their particular org. So if you can do it, they can do it. That's my, you know,
Yeah.
I know, yeah, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to be interviewed. Thank you. This has
Thank
been
you
very
for
cool.
inviting me. It was so fun to talk to you. I
Oh,
hope
thank you.
you got something out of it. I was just shocked that I was like, what could be in my gray matter that would be useful to you? I don't know, but I'm happy to share my story,
Yeah,
and
it's
thank you so much.
it's really you're doing stuff very, very well. Like the way you guys are operating is really, really good. And I wish I could say everybody operates like that, but that's not the case. And so
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm honestly just the mouthpiece on this podcast for an organization of 800 people who are absolutely brilliant and awesome to work with. But you know, I'm happy to be that voice and that leader.
thank you.
And thank you so much for
Yeah.
inviting me to speak about Go Engineer and our leadership style.
Thank you. Appreciate it.